11, it says, "And for the 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. Their enemies watched them go." So we know that the Antichrist is going to be able to overcome and kill the two witnesses. They'll be dead in the streets for 3.5 days, and then they will arise from the dead. The Lord will call them up himself back to heaven. And at this time, we know the second group of 144,000 prophesies the whole 1,260 days along with the two witnesses, and then the Antichrist will be able to overcome and kill them all. I believe that when the two witnesses are raptured into heaven, the entire group of the then slain 144,000 will also rise with them, fulfilling Revelation 7 and 13, 15, where they're all seen in heaven as a great group before the throne of God. This would happen right after the sixth trumpet of judgment, after the group is taken up and the seventh angel sounds his trumpet. The first group of 144,000 is taken up before the sixth seal. The second group is taken up after the sixth trumpet with the two witnesses. So these are different groups to study. And one of the things I've seen, just different requirements that they'll be doing while they're on the earth. The first group is going to be like a backup and a support group for the second group. They're going to be transporting them, taking them places they need to go. Perhaps, just working in a service of backup and capacity. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun because I see in the terms all the time enjoyment, because it's the first group that will directly come up against the alien forces here on Earth and the Antichrist kingdom itself here on Earth. The second group's mostly going to be on their feet, witnessing throughout the world God's salvation, and the first group's going to be more of an attack and battle kind of thing, and sometimes it sounds like a lot of fun. I can't wait. Anyway, I think I've got time. I've got about 15 minutes if anybody wants to call in. I've been taking calls in about 2 weeks. I'll get the number here for you. I think it's let me see. 260-356-2611 if somebody wants to call in for the last 10 minutes of the show. It's 260-356-2611. I've gone through, quite a bit of information over the last couple weeks. Next week, what I might try to do is wrap it up with some of my latest material. I don't want to get into that too much tonight. But if you look at my websites, I released an article last week about angels in the flesh. I don't know what that is. Hello. And also, don't forget the forum. It's going to be opening this week at beastprophets.com. Keep your eyes.
You have a caller, Sherry?
Yeah. Go ahead and patch him through.
You're up, John.
Well, good evening, Sherry. This is John from Indiana.
Well, hello, John. How you doing?
Oh, excellent. We've been listening to your show, and the one last week, they're both outstanding.
Well, thank you.
And a lot of information, I think, that you've covered that is the first time for a lot of people. As an example, the two groups of 144,000.
Yeah, I think it's probably, I don't know if I've done a show on this or not. I say things so much on the show, you don't know who's heard what when. So it's good just to back up and do a review of everything you've ever taught.
Oh, it's good. And a lot of times people will remember things better the second or third time that they've heard it.
Yeah, that's why I like doing, just repeat, and eventually people remember it.
I had a question. This is an odd one about Dulcie.
Okay.
One of the other websites, I think you know which one I mean, he had a program on about 3 months ago, and he said that they had visited Dulcie in the spirit and destroyed it.
Yeah.
But as far as I've heard, everything's still kind of where it was.
Yeah. You can disable a lot of things in the spirit realm, but that doesn't mean it's going to stop in the physical realm.
Ah.
And I think it's one of those things with that, really. There's two different wars going on at any one time. One in the spirit realm, and one in the physical.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can win one in the spirit realm and lose one on the physical realm. If that makes any sense, and then it's the opposite effect.
Well, actually, it does. So often, something does happen in the spirit well before it happens in the physical.
Yeah. I think there's a scripture on that says everything happens in heaven as it does on earth.
Mm-hmm.
That things will happen in the spirit realm before they happen on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And, don't understand everything that goes on, but definite war in the spirit realm at all times.
That is true. Even during World War II, both with the rising of different powers and also with the outcome of the war, there were critical battles, things that happened rather early on that pretty much determined the outcome of the war. In the Pacific, Midway was critical, and in Europe, Stalingrad was critical. And at that point, most people felt that was the spiritual turning point of the war, that regardless of how the battles went after that, the outcome was fairly well assured.
Well, that whole war, if you sit back and you look at things about it, a lot of it doesn't make sense.
Mm-mm.
I mean, they knew they were beat when they couldn't beat those Foo Fighters of the Germans.
Mm-mm.
And so you've got the Air Force that could have been easily defeated because the German had UFO aircraft at that point.
Oh, easily.
And then you've got the finding in the South Pole. They had discovered a city, or underneath, in the hollow earth down there,
mm-hmm.
and supposedly had transported Hitler. The person who died as Hitler was supposedly a clone.
Mm-hmm.
Daughter was on the internet. I was reading stuff several years ago about stuff that a daughter of the doctor who made this clone of Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Hitler that died wasn't him. The real Hitler was supposedly shuttled to South America, died in Brazil, an old man.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the German army had been shuffled down there as well in submarines. And so how is this all going on when there's supposedly a war going on? You know what I mean?
It is amazing. It's almost as if the agenda and the flow of events as we're taught in our history books really have nothing to do with reality and what's going on.
And that's usually the case on a lot of things. And it goes back as far as World War I and II. It's just amazing because when you look at everything that took place, it's like, how did that take place if they were doing this at the same time? And so there was two different things going on at that time. And what happened was with the Vatican is the one who snuck a lot of Hitler's people through the underground down to that base in South Pole that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an underground city down there.
Oh, I think it's that one they called Neuschwabenland.
I can't even pronounce stuff. I can't even pronounce English. Throw it in my handbook. But yeah, we've heard about it. The stories about General Byrd.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing, and they claim that Hitler had looted all of the church's art and all their treasures and the Jews' treasure and hoarded it down there to their base. And they claim he died in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like in the 70s or 80s when they claimed he died. So he lived to be a very old man.
There are cities in the interior in Brazil and also in Paraguay where virtually everyone speaks German.
Imagine that. And so it lends some credence to the whole story about most of that army being shuttled down there.
Mm-hmm.
And so who was left to fight the Russians?
This is true. This is true. The people in power knew that they would have to do something with their wealth and their power, and they had several years to work on it before the actual ending of the war. So, in a way, it's no surprise that they would have shuttled a lot of their wealth to a place that they felt was safe.
Well, it almost seems like the whole thing was a front to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What if they started the whole war